I think we've had some really great teachings this week.
Yes.
And they have been awesome and fantastic. And Sukkot this year has been incredible.
Yes.
I think everybody feels the same way. But this year's Sukkot actually kind of goes right along with what I'd like to talk for a few minutes about tonight. Okay? So, in our lives, on a everyday level, we make a lot of plans.
Yes.
We do. We make a lot of plans. We say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And the scriptures tells us, that if we're going to say something like that, we need to preface it with, if Yahweh be willing, I'm going to do this, right? Or I'm going to do that. But anyway, sir?
Oh, I said you're right. His will.
If it's His will, then it'll happen. But a lot of times, even the best laid plans, of mice and men, they don't come to fruition. That's Rebbe's new word. Fruition. That's his new word. But it doesn't, they don't play out. And sometimes our lives are like that. We have plans, and we see ourselves, when we're children, we see ourselves, I'm gonna be a fireman, I want to be an astronaut, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? Well, let me tell y'all something. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, worse than anything. That's what I wanted to do. But my problem is, A, I wasn't in the service. B, they wouldn't take me because of my feet. And C, I'm afraid to get more than about that high off the ground. So being an astronaut, it wouldn't help me any. I'd have been the world's first earthbound astronaut. I'd have been a terranaut or something. But anyway, we all have plans, and we all see ourselves, being here or being there or doing this or doing that. But the fact remains that none of us really has any control over what our future holds. Okay? The scriptures talk about that He already, before we're even on this earth, before we were even a thought in somebody's mind, the Father already had something planned out for us. He already had a set of circumstances and a roadmap, basically, planned out for us, where He wanted us to be and what He wanted us to do. And so a lot of times, we say, well, I have this plan, but that doesn't always mean that it's going to come true. Just because it's what we want doesn't always mean it's what He wants, right? And we got to remember, and I'm here to tell you that regardless of what we want, what He wants is always going to take precedent, right? So it doesn't really matter, All we know is that we need to keep moving forward, and we need to keep pushing, right? And we need to keep pushing towards the prize, right? We got to keep pushing toward the mark, right? For the high calling. And what I said was I was going to talk a little bit about Sukkot. Now, I realize we're in the last day, just crossing over into the last great day. And I have to say that this Sukkot has been unlike every other Sukkot that we've had. What do you mean? Brother Shane, what are you talking about? Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to answer that for you. There have not been, Yahweh willing, there have not been any hurricanes. Right?
Yeah.
There have not been, bless Yahweh, there have not been any medical emergencies. Bless Yahweh, there has not been any drama. But we've had enough of that, ain't we? And we've all had enough of drama. Right? Especially in the camp.
Yes.
Right.
Okay? If there's one place that we should be free from drama, it's in the camp. Okay? We've not had
Rain?
the weather has been incredible. We have not had windstorms. We have not had record heat. We have not, make it so hot that you can't even sleep in your tent.
Very glad.
You know, we have been incredibly blessed in 2022 with our Sukkot.
Amen.
And the thing is, unfortunately, and let's all be honest, we all been kind of celebrating and enjoying ourselves and enjoying each other's company and enjoying the good food and everything. But in the back of our heads, I'm pretty sure that every one of us has been saying, okay, what's fixing to go wrong? And, you know, and like I said, it shouldn't be that way. But unfortunately, that has been what we have seen up until this point. But what is it that we've always talked about? We say, no matter what happens, right? What are we going to do?
Take what's fit.
We're going to take what's left and we're going to do our very best. We're going to keep walking, right? We're going to keep walking, right? The scriptures say that we're to give thanks in all things, right? So here's the situation. That's what Shaul said, right? He said, I have learned in whatsoever state I'm in, therewith to be content. Okay? Now, it's a funny thing about the word content. Content doesn't mean that you're overjoyed. All right? But content means that you're satisfied. It's okay. I can grow here. I may not, like, if you were a plant, right? I'm not getting as much sunlight as I want to, but you know what? I'm comfortable here, and I can grow here, right? And I can do my best in this position, in this state, in this place, right? And that's, like I'm saying, that's what this Sukkot has been like. This one here has showed us, this particular Sukkot, I believe, has shown all of us what has been lacking all the way up to this point. Yet, we were satisfied with the heat waves and with the hurricanes and with the bagworms, right? And with the torrential downpours. Do y'all remember we had a Sukkot one year when it rained every day?
Yes.
And I mean, it was a slogging mess out there, you know, and we all had water in our tents, and it was just, you know, it was just pouring off the back. The pond was over full, right? Because it was all just rolling in. But you know what? We were, right? Fire ant plagues.
I praise
Right.
you, Father Yahweh.
Yeah, those fire ants didn't get you this year, did they?
Praise
Said.
Yahweh. We have one more day. Praising Him.
But the point is, like I said, every one of those, even though they weren't perfect, we've been maybe not overjoyed, but we've been content. And we've been satisfied. And been happy with the fact that we know, hey, we're doing the best that we can. And we're still out here. Things aren't perfect, but we're still here in the camp.
Yeah.
Right? And we're still, you know, we're still pushing forward. We're still doing our best to make it. And to follow this thing out like we're supposed to. You know? And not everything, like I said, not everything that we do is going to turn out perfect. The only thing that we know that's 100% correct and 100% right and 100% guaranteed is the fact that He has an expected end for us.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we put our trust in Him. We put our faith in Him, right? We walk after Him the best that we know how to do. And, you know, I'm going to say something about this little group. We're not many. We're not many. But you know what? We try as hard as we possibly can.
Amen.
Right? Would everybody agree with that?
Amen.
Amen.
We try as hard as we can. We put our hearts and souls into it. We put our back into it. You know? And are we perfect? No. No. But we strive. Right? And we keep moving forward. And no matter how many times we get knocked back, we get up, dust ourselves off, and we keep walking. No matter what people say, no matter what people do. How many times are we out here asleep? I'll tell you, because I sleep by that gate every year. But how many times are we out here sleeping And people come barreling down the highway at 4 o'clock in the morning, and as soon as they get to the yard, start laying on the horn and don't get off of it until they're past, just out of spite.
Yeah.
I've
Yep.
never heard that since I've been coming here. Really.
I have.
Brother, we're
Last
right
night.
there on that fence, I'm
Last
telling you.
night.
But it's every year. They'll do it. They ride, and like I said, it'll be 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And they come through and they lay on the horn and the whole way. And it's like I said, there's no good reason for it. They just doing it to be spiteful. But you know what? We roll over, go back to sleep, right? And then we get up the next morning and we talk about, did you hear that guy laying on that horn last night?
As long as they're not hitting a tree or.
That's right. As long as they're not coming through the camp at a high rate of speed, we're all right. But the point is, like I said, regardless of what other people do, we're still here. And regardless of what other people say, we're still here. And regardless of what other people think and how they want to argue with us about things that they have no knowledge of, we're still here. Right? And that's what the Father's looking for. Do you think for 1 second that all of those prophets that he sent, right? You got a prophet here. This guy coming out of some little podunk town on the backside of the desert. He comes in and he starts telling these people, hey, look, Yahweh said you're going to this and this and this and this. Unfortunately, they probably don't listen until the fire starts falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's too late. Right? But that's one thing about this little group here. We know what's the right thing to do. And we do it to the best of our ability. I don't believe we can be called out there. You'll never find another group that will welcome anybody with open arms like this little group does. Because we love the word and we want to spread it and we want to get it out there and we want people to see, hey, there's another way. You're over here, and I don't know about any of the rest of y'all, but when I was, and I'm not saying this to be ugly, okay? Please understand, I'm not saying this to be ugly. But when I was in the church, I've been in the church my whole life. My whole life. And I never ever felt like I got any kind of traction anywhere.
Yeah.
Always felt like I was just spinning my wheels. Because we talked about so many things, yet we never got anywhere. And we read the word over and over and over again. But guess what? We never understood it any better than we did when we were young. When we were children. You've got grown folks acting in the capacity of leadership that have the understanding of children.
Yep.
And I would like to say that with this group, and please, I'm not petting anybody, I'm not pinning roses on folks. But I can tell you what I see versus what I see in other places.
There's me here. It's just not fluff.
Exactly, sis. That's what I was going to say. When you come here, you're going to get fed. You might get a snack or an appetizer somewhere else, right? But with what we've been taught and what we've been gifted with and what has been revealed to us. This is what the scriptures talk about, the strong meat, right? Because how many of us have said things to people that we consider kindergarten stuff, rudimentary at the very least, and they're just like, oh my gosh, what a revelation. Oh, this blows me away. I've never heard this before. We've all heard that, haven't we? Every one of us has heard that. Look at what just happened with Rebbe and his family a couple days ago. Right? He's teaching them about something that we kind of say, that's kid stuff. But they're blown away by it. And it's because people are not being taught. They're getting yelled at. Right? They're getting the finger pointed at them. They're getting told that they're not good enough. They're getting told that their best ain't good enough. These are the things that the church tells them. Right?
give more money.
You got to. You ain't digging deep.
Mhm.
You ain't digging deep enough, right? And you know, if anything ever happens, it's always your fault,
Yeah.
right? Because why? You don't have enough faith, or you're not giving enough, or you're not this, or you're not that. How about it's just bad leadership?
Yeah.
Okay? How about that? Let's call it what it is. Okay? You have a group of people who are only half armed, right? Being led out by captains and generals that only know half the battle, and they don't even have the correct weapons to give the people.
No.
They don't have the correct weapons because they're not using the old covenant. They're
That's
using
that's what I'm talking about, sister. They're half armed, right? They got the bow, but they got no arrow.
right.
Or they got a gun and no bullets. They got nothing. They got nothing to you know. They don't have all their armor. They may be walking around with the breastplate of righteousness, and they may be walking around with their feet shod with the gospel of the gospel of peace. But they ain't got no helmet on their head, and they got no shield, right, to quench the fiery darts, and they sure ain't got no sword, right? Because the scriptures tell me that this right here, this is the sword, right here, right? This thing cuts going in and coming out. This is the sword right here. But if you only got half a weapon, if you just got the handle and ain't got the blade to your sword, then what? You know what I'm saying? Does this make sense? If you've only got half of it, you may have the New Testament and you may have it backward and forward. But if you don't know where it's coming from, how you going to master your weapon? It's just like David. When David went to go fight, when he went to go see, and Goliath was there and he was doing all that stuff, right? And Saul said, I'll tell you what, I got a brand new suit of armor back here, and you go put this stuff on, you know. And David told him, he said, I can't use that. I've not tried it, right? It wasn't made for me. So what's going on is they got weapons that they've not tried.
Right.
And they've got pieces of armor that they've not bothered to have fitted because they don't know that they need them.
Really.
You know, and I had a fella tell me one time, you don't know what you don't know. And that's true. You don't. But when you're never taught, that's a shameful, shameful thing. Because it's not convenient. This word is not convenient. It's not pretty. Right? This word ain't pretty. Scriptures tell us that Yahushua himself wasn't pretty.
Right.
Said that there was nothing in him that we should desire him.
Yeah, because
Right?
wars everybody's sicknesses.
Yeah, that's my point. As I said, there was nothing in him that we should desire him. So he wasn't pretty. And this word ain't pretty either. All right? It wasn't all sugar and spice and everything nice and warm fuzzies and all that kind of stuff. It ain't it. But all they know is what? Salvation and prosperity. But the problem is it goes way past that. Once you get salvation, okay, you got to move past that stuff. Right? Didn't the scripture say that you should be fully grown by now? But you're still babes. You still got to have the milk because you can't handle the meat. What are you going to say, bro?
Hold on.
He was just posting that scripture.
Okay. But that's what he said. You're supposed to be, y'all are supposed to be masters. You're supposed to have a handle on this thing. You're supposed to be perfect. Right? Now, Bible students and scholars, we understand that perfect does not mean I don't ever make a mistake. If it did, why would there be a scripture that said a righteous man falls 7 times?
7 times.
So, even if you're a righteous person, you're going to make mistakes. The saints in the scriptures made mistakes. We just talked about Moses yesterday. He made a pretty big mistake. He didn't mean to. But he epitomized what that scripture just said. Because what happened? When he failed and Yahweh told him, you're not going into the promised land, did he just sully up and say, well, I'm going to take my ball and go home? Yeah. I've done all this for you and now you're going to do me. Did he do? No, he did not. That's because Moses was a righteous man. He picked himself up, dusted himself off and said, well, I screwed up. But you know what? I got a duty. I've got a responsibility. And I need to keep walking. And there's going to be times when we feel that way. Or when we do that. Let me put it this way. We make mistakes. And we're going to. We are flesh and blood and we are going to make mistakes. But what do? We pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and we try to do better. Okay? And like I said the other day, we do our best. And I'm just foolish enough to believe that the blood of Yahushua can cover where I can't get to.
And we falter daily.
And that's it, sis. We got to remember that. We make mistakes every day.
Yep, amen.
All right? We are still the seed of Adam. We make mistakes every day. All right? But when we do, we recognize it. We apologize. We turn around. We go on our way. And we continue to walk this thing out. We don't just sully up and, like I said, take our toys and go home. You know? Where would the children of Israel be if Moses had done that? The rest of them would have died in the desert, probably. Don't you think? But he had a duty. And he said, you know what? I messed up. But the best thing I can do is keep on going. Keep moving forward. Right? That's what Shaul was talking about. I press. When you press, what does that mean? When you're pressing, what does that mean? That means that you're coming up against something. Okay? It's not an easy walk. It's not a cakewalk. It's not just a little old stroll through the park. You having a fight. But saints, that's what we know that this thing is. It's a fight every day. We make decisions every day. Am I going to wear my tzitzit today? Because I don't want so-and-so to make fun of me. I don't want so-and-so to ask me about if my underwear is unraveling, right? I had a person do that one time. They thought I was, yeah, they really did. They asked me, was that your underwear coming apart? I'm like, are you an idiot? Did you just wake up stupid this morning? Is that what?
That lady at that fast food restaurant that wanted a piece.
Oh yeah, we went to Wendy's one time. Kim and myself and Chris and Mom, we went to Wendy's one time, right there in front of Walmart in Wiggins. And Chris is sitting there and he's got his tzitzit on, right? This woman, we didn't know who she was. We didn't know her from Adam's house cat. She comes across the thing and she's like, "Excuse me, sir," talking to Chris. And he's like, "Yes, ma'am." The lady said, Are those strings hanging off your pants? And he was like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, can I have some of them?"
Yeah.
And he said, "What?" And we all did. We were like, "What?" And she said, "Can I have some of them?" And I said, "For what?"
Yeah.
And she said, "I got a craft that I want to do, and they look like they would be just what I needed to do." I told her, I said, "Ma'am, he's not going to give you those strings off his britches.
No.
That's not going to happen."
No.
And she was like, "Well, I guess I could just go to Walmart and get some." Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah,
Just go. But yeah, just stuff like that. You know what I mean? So, am I going to wear my head covering today? You may have the prettiest hair, freshly coiffed, whatever, right? But are you going to humble yourself, right? Because that's what it's all about, right? It's all about being humble. And ladies, your hair is a beautiful thing. It is a covering of glory for you, right? But the scriptures say that we need to keep it under wraps. And so, y'all do. And I bless the Father for that, because it's in your heart to do the right thing.
Just like in the tabernacle, the glory of Yahuwah was covered over.
Exactly,
with so many layers.
and that's the thing. You had the glory that was inside the tabernacle. Since Sister Gabriella brought this up, you have the tabernacle, and there was glorious, beautiful things in there. But it was hidden under covering, after covering, after covering, after covering. And then the last one was, what the scripture says, badger skin. We know it can't be no badger skin. And it's just kind of blue and drab looking and just kind of not very pretty. But when you think about that, you've got this drab covering over millions and millions of dollars. Sound like Carl Sagan there for a second. Billions and billions. But all of this money, all of this value, right? And that's the thing. The covering over keeps his treasure safe. So, am I going to go ahead? Am I going to continue to follow what he said is good for me to eat and isn't good for me to eat because I've got go to dinner with these clients or with my boss? Am I going to continue to do what the Father wants me to do, or am I going to do this other so that they don't feel awkward? Well, like I said a million times, what I eat or don't eat has no bearing on what you do. So you do what you want to do. I've told several people very close to me, whether I eat that or not has nothing to do with you. I said, it's awfully funny to me that you get so upset about these things. Yeah. This particular person that I'm talking to, I said, you don't eat tomatoes, but I do. I said, you don't eat raisins, but I do. Have I ever said one word to you about it? No. I said, then why do you get so worried about what I don't eat? It doesn't matter, right? This is my thing.
There's not a spirit behind tomatoes or raisins.
Well, and that's true. You know what I mean? There's a whole spirit attached to this thing. Yeah. But the point is, like I said, what I do or don't do has no bearing on you at all. Right? Mm-hmm. You don't hear me flipping out, You don't see me and my wife coming to odds at each other because she eats asparagus and I refuse to. Yeah. Yeah. She likes it. My son likes it. I can't stand it.
Tomorrow you said move green pops Dad.
I like them too.
And Rabbi's like,
but you see what I'm saying? So whether am I going to continue to do this? I have to make these choices. Am I going to still do this? Even though it's going to make me look this way or this way or this way. I don't care. I've heard it said before that this person, whoever they are, my brother, ain't got heaven or hell for me. All I can do is try to follow this book and try to do the best I can. And but the thing is, I have purposed in my mind that it's worth it. The arguments and all that's way far. It's way more worth it than the silence that acquiescing is going to buy. Okay? So the thing is, I don't think that any of us ever thought that this walk is where we were going to end up.
No.
I don't think any of us did.
Didn't even know about it.
Didn't even know that it was possible. Because our whole lives we were taught, I don't know about anybody else, but we were taught, well, you're a Christian, you're a Jew, and never the twain shall meet. Okay, that's what we were always taught. That's for, what they tell you? Oh, that's for the Jews. That's not for you. But I'll tell you one thing that has always, it's pretty funny. It was always in my head that there had to be some sort of compromise somewhere. And I'll tell you why. Because when I was younger, I had a Jewish friend who had a partially Jewish family. And the thing is that I was always invited to every one of their celebrations. I was never excluded. If I wanted to join, I could join, and it was fine. So I knew that there had to be somewhere. And when we would talk, like when they would have Passover, very first Passover I ever celebrated, I was with them. I think very first time Kim ever saw it was with this same group of people. They invited us over, and we went and enjoyed ourselves, had a great time. But you could still see, and that's the thing, looking at it from this side of the fence, you could actually see the Messiah in it.
Right.
Even though it was an Old Testament story, you could still see the Messiah in it. So I knew that there had to be some sort of common ground somewhere. We just didn't know where it was. Didn't know that it was actually possible. But as we walk and as we grow, we see things differently. And as we become more mature in the Word and we become more mature in the Messiah, we begin to see things that others don't. And it's that vision, right? It's that understanding. It's that willingness to look and think outside the box that is so incredible. It's truly priceless. The fact that he took a bunch of people and gave us a heritage that we never ever knew we had. That is priceless. He took a bunch of seemingly unconnected outsiders.
Yeah.
Kim and I have always been outsiders, haven't we, babe?
Yep.
But that ain't never stopped us, right? But took a group of those who are out on the outer extremities, right? And gave them a place to go. It's just like it talks about in Psalms. He sets the solitary in families, right? But where's the rebellious going to dwell? In a dry land. What happens in a dry land? Nothing. You die. You ain't got no water. You got no food. You're gonna die in that dry land.
It's called Death Valley for a reason.
That's right. Kim said it's called Death Valley for a reason. It is. There's nothing can grow out there. But like I said, I don't think any of us ever expected this. Right?
It's a blessing to find, a family.
Sure.
Gone through the same things,
And that's it, sis. When we started doing this 17, 18 years ago, whatever it was, I don't even remember. It's been that long. We had no direction. And we were a mess for a while.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure this thing out. We were a mess. Yeah, you couldn't look either direction, right? Neither one of them wanted us. So we said, you know what? Maybe we need to start understanding this thing ourselves, and then we can put it together and make something happen. Make it work. And as long as we stay humble and we stay obedient, we stay teachable, and we stay willing to listen to what the Father says and what He tells us to do and how He tells us to go, then maybe we can start getting some semblance of understanding here. Well, He's done that and then some. I don't think that there's any of us that looks at the Word the same way now as we did even 3-4 years ago. We look at it. Is that safe to say? You think?
Oh, yeah.
And given the understanding that He has given our leader, and our willingness to walk it out and back it up, you know, the Father rewards obedience, right? The Father rewards obedience. And so when we say, okay, Father, we don't understand it, but hey, we're willing to walk it out because it's what you said to do. I think there's a little bit of extra attaboy attached to that, you know. Y'all understand what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. You know, because like we've spoken about before, we don't have to understand it. He didn't say, well, if you understand what I'm trying to tell you, go out and do this and go do that. He never said that. He just said, go do this because I said to do it. Yeah. And so we do it. What gets me is when you're trying to talk to somebody or you're trying to explain it to them, and they truly are children. I mean, just babies. Because the first thing and almost only thing out of their mouth is, why? 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 Some things you're not meant to know. Right? We're just meant to do it. Right? Just like when you got looking, you tell your son or your daughter, don't do that, and they say, why? And you tell them, because I said so. That's why. And that should be good enough for you. When you get older and you can understand, then there's going to be time to explain it to you. Right? But right now, you're just going to do it because I told you to. It's like I saw a comic one time. Y'all familiar with Calvin and Hobbes? Mm-hmm. You know, I'm talking about little boy and stuffed tiger, and stuffed tiger would come to life. And Calvin was a terror, a holy terror. Well, one time, I think it was wintertime, and he and his dad were standing in the living room, and the dad said, well, he said, that driveway's getting awfully full of snow out there. And his dad said, I think you ought to go out there and shovel it. He said, I'll give you $1 if you go out there and shovel that. Now, remember, this was the early 80s, okay? He said, I'll give you $1 if you go out there and shovel that driveway. And Calvin goes off into this big tirade about inflation and all kinds of stuff. And he said, I'm not going to touch it for less than $25. The next frame, his dad's starting to undo his belt, and he said, in a minute you're going to do it you're going to do it for free because I told you so. And in the last frame, Calvin is stepping it towards Ray. He said, well, I better get out there and get to it. He said, that $1 sounds fine. I believe I'll get on out there and start clearing that driveway. But like I said, the Father doesn't owe you an explanation. All right, his expectation, remember we talked about expectations? His expectation is that you're going to do it because he told you to. Because he said so. You know? And every time we do that, we prove him right. His word is yea and amen, right? So he says, you know, this is what I want you to do, and this is why we do it. But what we're all working toward. What are we all working toward? We're working toward that expected end, right? Remember, I told you last night, the word that's used for expected means a hopeful end, right? That's what we're working toward. We're all, you know, none of us knows until we get there in front of him. But we have hope, right? We know that he's fair. We know that he's just. We know that he's righteous, right? So if I do the same thing, or if you do the same thing that a prophet did, well, guess what? There should be a prophet's reward waiting for you, right? If you follow the word and do what he says, he said, if you love me, keep my commands, right? What's the greatest commandment? Hear, O Israel. Yahweh is our Elohim, Yahweh is one, right? And the second is like unto it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. It said on these two, hang all the law and the prophets. Okay? What's that mean? That means that not one commandment is any greater than the other. They all carry equal weight. And isn't it just like Yahweh? Because we talk about the commandments. All the commandments are on equal footing. Well, when we're all standing before him, doesn't matter how much money you got in the bank. Doesn't matter how smart you are. Are you a member of Mensa, or if you're barely made it out of third grade, we're all on equal ground. So the concept of equality, legality, right? It's all the same. We're all the same to him. Okay? Yahushua didn't die any more for Sister Tammy than he did for Sister Avia. Okay? So, when we talk about that expected end, that hopeful end, what is it? All we want to hear is, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things, now I make you ruler over many.
That'd be wonderful.
Right? And then what's he say? Enter into the joy of your master.
Yeah.
That's all we're waiting to hear. That's our expected end. Right? That's all we want. Right? So even though things in life may not have worked out the way we wanted them to, we can have faith in one thing. That if we walk after him, and if we walk as he walked, and if we do what he did, then our end is, well done, good and faithful servant. So take your solace in that. Know that if we do what we can, and we do our best, you know what I'm saying? We put his son above, put ourselves below, right? We walk this thing out to the best of our understanding, right? With clean hands, feet that don't run to mischief, right? Innocent hands that don't shed blood, you know. And don't forget, y'all, we can kill someone just as quick with our tongue as we can with our hands, okay? So let's remember that. We can shed blood with our tongues, too. These teeth that get a hold of you and tear you to pieces. All right? Let's keep walking. Because one day we're going to get to the end of the road. And when we do, we know what we hope to hear. So let's all hope that we hear that. Like I said, I love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. I really, really do. It's so wonderful. I was tickled to death to see, you know, Sister Vicky and Sister Avia. I mean, y'all going out of your way to make it here and to spend time in the camp. You know, both of y'all got serious health issues, but you're not letting it hold you back. And I honestly believe that the Father honors those types of things. He sees that. He knows where your heart is. There's a lot of people could be in this camp right now, but they choose not to be. You know, they're too worried about, oh, what's so-and-so going to say if they see me parked over there? Come on. Y'all know I'm telling you the truth. There's a whole lot of people. Oh, man, if I do that, then I'm going to have to stop doing this, and I'm not going to be able to eat my favorite bacon burger and all this, you know. But isn't it sad that that piece of shredded swine flesh is more important than their soul? You know what I mean? They put the satisfaction of their hunger and their taste buds, put that over the word of Yahweh. Well, let me tell you what, there's an expected end for things like that too. Right? They say, depart from me. I never knew you. Right? So let's not be in with the goats. Right? We don't want to be on that left side. Let's not be mixed in with the goats. Let's stay over here with the sheep. Right? Because he's the good shepherd. Right? And the sheep know his voice. He's known of his sheep. Right? And he knows every one of us. So, like I said, let's keep working towards that expected end. None of us knows the day or the hour. But I will tell you this. It's coming for all of us. Some sooner than later. But it's coming for all of us. And we got to know in whom we've trusted. Got to know. Like I said, I'm just foolish enough to believe and have faith in that what he said that he would do, he is well able to perform.
Amen.
Right? Well able to perform. That's just Abraham and me. that little speck of a speck. Like I said, But I'm just, like I said, I'm just foolish enough to believe that what he has promised, he is well able to perform. So anyway, that's going to do it for me tonight. I love and appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. I thank the Father for giving me these words tonight.
Yes.
I thank him for the Ruach. Because when I sat down here the past 3 nights, y'all, honestly, I had no clue where I was going.
Right.
But when I sat down here, idea pops in my head. And I'm like, all right, Father, if that's where you want to go, that's y'all buckle up. That's where we're headed, you know. And I think that it's been pretty good. I really do.
Yeah.
But
It has been.
anyway, like I said, love and appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and close the room down. But what are we
Yeah,
doing?
tomorrow I think it